It is Tuesday. It is summer. It is Frankie time. Frankie Corrado joining us, TSN hockey analyst. Frankie, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Oh, there's always something going. It slows down, but there's always something going on, even when it gets
Talk
a
about.
little bit slow. So why don't we begin? You notice this as well. There's a lot of high-end Canadian Hockey League players from all three major junior leagues that are taking advantage of the new rules of the NCAA. Why don't I go get paid to play money and have a different experience? How about the Brampton Steelheads? How do they feel today? They lost their leading goal scorer and their number one goaltender yesterday, going to Michigan and Michigan State. Porter Martone, Flyers' first-round pick. Jack Ivankovic is a second-round pick of the Predators, and they're gone. They're going to the NCAA. Are you concerned about, let's call it the brain drain for major junior hockey in Canada?
I'm not. I'm not because I think it's going to be the landscape of the league is to change because the best 16, 17, 18-year-old players are all coming to the CHL. Once guys get drafted, then of course they're susceptible to leaving, but it's not everyone's going to leave right away to go to the NCAA because like Porter Martone, sixth overall, he will go to Michigan State and he will play. Like he's going to have a pretty prominent role on that team, I would imagine. If you're a guy who's like a third, fourth, fifth round pick, and you're trying to go as a true freshman, an 18-year-old, you're leaving a situation. Let's just use a defenseman because that was the position I played. You're now leaving a situation where you've put in 2 years and you're going to play a massive role on this team. You're probably going to be first power play, first penalty kill, top 5-on-5 minutes. Let's call it 25 minutes a night. You're going to leave that to go be a true freshman in a league of 21, 22-year-olds and have to scrounge for scraps of ice time. It doesn't make sense for your development. So for a guy like Caden Lindstrom or Gavin McKenna or Porter Martone, those guys can go do it because they're going to play, and maybe they really value having the all the resources of a sports science department, and that's their number one priority right now. But for players that need to play and establish what their identity is, maybe it's better for them to stick around and play another year or two in the CHL. So I think there's an intrigue factor right now where a lot of this has opened up and guys want to go and they want to check it out. And the NIL money, of course, has a lot to do with it. But I think as time goes on, we'll see how the junior hockey cycle looks. It's going to look different than it did before. But we're also going to see if guys are a little more selective in when they decide to go over. And also, if they're going to sign NHL contracts, because once you sign your entry-level deal, you can't go anymore. And, if teams are going to entice you by, trying to put you on an entry level at 18, 19 years old, then your mind is made up. You're staying in the CHL at that point. But it is, it's different now. The players can benefit from it in a lot of different ways. And I think we're going to see a lot of guys because of the intrigue of, what's it like? Let's go see. We're going to see guys go, but I think at some point we're going to have a little bit of a balancing act.
And I think let's look at Martone. The intriguing part there is, Tyson Forster, got an infection after his surgery. Doesn't sound like he's going to start the season. Like, conceivably, if Martone wanted to go to Flyers camp, now he can't go to school, he can't do both, he could make the team. But we're still under the, air quotes, old policy, and it's going to change. We don't know what it's going to look like about allowing maybe a teenager or two to play in the American League. So this is still evolving. Like, we don't even know the end game, how that's going to play out.
Yeah, well, it's a good point, right? And that's always the thing that I did like about being a CHL player is I know in September I'm going to training camp. And, I likely didn't have a chance to make the team. But, this is – it's going to be the landscape has changed already because this has opened up. We're going to see how guys utilize this. And you know what? For the goaltender, like for Porter Martone, I can reason with him going at a young age and going to NCAA. He's big, he's strong, he's skilled, he's ready for it. Porter Martone can play against 23-year-olds and be successful today. For the goalie, like, goaltender's a weird position. You never really necessarily want to be on the best team facing minimal shots and minimal workload your young development age. You also don't want to be on the worst team. There's like a happy medium there, which the Brampton Steelheads were perfect. Like they're a middle of the pack team. They have enough skill. They're not overly skilled, and you can be pretty busy. And now you're going to go to a season where you play less games, so you have less of a chance to actually get in the crease and get those game opportunities. And now you're fighting again for more playing time. I think it makes more sense out of those two guys. It makes way more sense for Martone. I don't see the benefit for a young goaltender going right away and giving up all those valuable minutes in the crease that he could get in Brampton.
Take me back maybe, 14 years or so, Frankie. Can you put yourself in the shoes of the kids today and wonder if the rules are what they are now? Would your path have been different? You think you would have made some different decisions?
So mine probably wouldn't have been, because although maybe I would have set out for it to be different. Like I would have gone to the OHL like I did. Probably would have said, okay, let's reevaluate where I'm at after I graduate high school and see if I get drafted to the NHL. And if I think I'm ready to go somewhere as a true freshman, maybe I will. If not, I'll stay and play another year in the CHL. But it wouldn't have changed for me because at 18 years old, I got drafted in June. In September, Vancouver offered me my entry-level contract at training camp, my first training camp. So I obviously took it. And I was a fifth-round pick. I was in no position to, some of these guys, the college free agents, will say, no, I'm just going to sign after. Well, I wasn't in that position. I was never the guy that no, I'm going to sign after. You're giving me a contract?
Where's my pen?
Is this the best you can do? Yeah? Okay, grab the pen. Let's sign it. That was the gist of it. So my path would have been exactly the same. I would have been playing in the OHL till I was 20 and then starting my AHL career or, trying to make the NHL team at age 20, 21, which is, what I did anyways. And, that it's hard when a team, unless you're so sure of yourself in your top 10 or first round, if a team flashes an entry level in front of you, that's what you've been working your whole life for. So to put it on the back burner, that's tough. That you'll, and if it doesn't work, you'll be filled with, I would have been filled with regret after if I said, no guys, not going to sign now, going to go to college. Let's talk again in a couple of years. Who knows? GM, and in my case, GM changed, head coach changed 3 times. So, you just never know what can happen. But I would have been open to it for sure. I think the number one thing at that age is what's your opportunity and what's your ice time like. And if you're getting those 2 things, then you probably shouldn't be in that much of a rush to leave where you're at.
So you're still young enough here and old enough that it would have been a pen and not DocuSign back then. All right, it's all DocuSign these days.
It was a pen. Yeah, exactly. It was a real pen.
All right, coaching staff was announced, and there was no surprise here. Why would you change it? We know John Cooper is the head coach, and they announced that Ottawa native Bruce Cassidy, head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, is coming back as an assistant. So is Pete DeBoer. So is Rick Tocchet, and former 67's assistant Misha Donskoff are going to be part of the staff. So then, that gets it. We all wonder. We played a clip from Tom Wilson. He spoke yesterday and talked about it's on his mind. He'd like to be a part of the Olympic team. How much change, and this is a tough one here in mid-July, but how much change do you anticipate roster-wise? There will be some different guys for sure, but, do you think they want to keep it relatively the same, or are they open to quite a few new faces?
I would say it's got to be a handful at most. For sure, there's going to be a couple changes, and I think, it goes without saying who's going to be healthy, who's having an up year, who's having a down year, who does the coach really believe in and have a lot of comfort in. So I think it's not more than 5 changes on the team. I would think. And I think a lot of them are probably going to be up front. I don't think there's much room to change on the back end. I think the back end is where you wonder about, is Drew Doughty still playing at a high level, which I think he will be. And does Evan Bouchard sneak his way onto the team, although he probably wouldn't make my team? I think up front, you probably would look at it and say, can I find a way to get Tom Wilson on this team? Because it's something about, even though it's international rules, if you can get him to rein it in a little bit and play within the lines of international rules, that's a really effective player going up against Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk. I think another name that pops into my head is, guys that are kind of utility guys, is Nick Suzuki, one of those guys.
His second half was unbelievable.
Yeah, like his second half was great. His first half, when they were evaluating the team, wasn't great. But he's also never really been on the radar for Hockey Canada stuff. Sorry, not that he's not been on the radar. He has been on the radar. He's never gone. He's never participated in a men's Worlds. And there's other players that have. So I think part of the Four Nations was to get the team together. And I think moving forward to the Olympics, the nucleus is there for the vast majority. And it's going to be a few guys in and out because, for me, that was the whole point of doing this thing at the Four Nations. If you're just going to have, 1/3 of the team or half the team out now, you didn't really nail it with the Four Nations in how you selected that team. And we honestly, we can't say that. Like, Canada did a great job. So I think it's 3, maybe 4, but I can't see it being more than 5 players coming out and switching.
You work a lot of Jets game as an analyst. Scheifele, how close is he?
See, the thing with Scheifele is when Scheifele is his natural self, he's an offensive guy. You have to give him a lot of credit. I thought this year he really committed away from the puck. Like, he made a conscious effort to play away from the puck. The thing is, when you're selecting a team like this, you probably look at it and say, well, who does that come more natural to? Like, who has that trait and it's their default? And you're like, well, that's Anthony Cirelli. And then you look at the way the team is built and you say, it's okay. It's McDavid, it's McKinnon, it's Crosby. I have Point already. Like, I'm good for centerman. So, and I'm going to have a matchup centerman who's more like just thinking defensively. So that pushes Scheifele to the wing. And if you think he can play the wing, then, maybe you'll have him there because he would give you some, like, he's very skilled. He's very offensive minded. I think that's where, when you select a team like this, you look at all these players and say, what is he at his best naturally? And I think Mark Scheifele, for the sake of the Winnipeg Jets, did an unbelievable job really rounding out his game and committing to the defensive side of the puck. But this is not the Winnipeg Jets. Team Canada doesn't need Mark Scheifele to be a rounded out version of himself. They just need who's the best at doing what. And for the role in the lineup, the slot in the lineup that he would likely play, you probably look at someone else who's more like wired to be that way. But he's, as far as his production and his skill, he's very deserving of being there. Maybe you can find some room for him on a wing, but that's, as you know, like, that's where a lot of the variance is going to be, and that's crowded already.
All right, last point on this, and Hammer and I, threw this out there earlier, because we know the next CBA is signed. It's a new 4-year deal, so we got 5 years of absolute labor peace starting this season, and that includes a map for international best-on-best hockey. We had the Four Nations. There's going to be World Cups. They're going to at least the next 2 Olympics. Gone are the days of Gary Bettman and the song and dance. I'm going to be talking to the IIHF. They need to pay for this and the IOC and all that, and that's why we didn't have it for so long. Would you err, if the decision makers, if it's close at the bottom end of your roster, if Celebrini has a great start, Bedard has a great start, would you err to a younger guy getting one of those spots, knowing that you're going to these best on best for the foreseeable future and have these tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be in the conversation. And like, I think Hockey Canada has made an effort to do that, whether it's been at the World Juniors, right? Like, we've seen some young guys make the team because, at some point the keys kind of get passed down to them and they got to lead it the next year. So they get that year to see what it's all about. We do see it at the Men's Worlds. Like, Porter Martone was at the Men's Worlds this year. With a pretty stacked team. He was there kind of soaking up the experience. So Hockey Canada does have a track record of of doing this type of thing where they groom the young guys along, because at some point it's going to be their bus to drive. I think there's these young guys, like especially Celebrini, would be very, like, he would be deserving of being on this team. Now we'll see how he plays to start the year, and that, I guess, the same goes with 75% of the team. But like these young guys have, like, you're not going to be worse off for taking, you know, one or two young guys and kind of bringing them along to see what the experience is like. The other thing that comes to mind is, you know, the years where they're going to do the men's worlds. Hockey Canada could also look at that and say, well, that's our time to bring the young guys and you know, teach them how we're doing things and how we want to approach things when we are doing best on best. So I think they're going to have options in a couple different ways, how you do it and who you bring in. But there's some of these young guys would be pretty much on the cusp of making this team anyways, even if you weren't, you know, trying to groom them for these next tournaments coming up.
All right, we continue to see some RFAs get signed and picked off, and I brought up Scheifele and the Jets, and as I said, people that don't know, Frankie works a lot of Jets games during the season. Your thoughts on Gabe Vilardi? Missed some games with injury, but boy, what a great top line when they were all healthy, and he was a huge part of that. He's got great size, right shot. He doesn't do anything particularly super, like, elite well. He just scores. So 7.5 on the AAV in a long-term deal. Do you like that contract?
I love it. That's a huge win for the Jets to get that deal done and have Gabe Vilardi there long term. Now, he's got to stay healthy, but he is a huge presence in front of the net for them. He has, like, really nice hands in tight. He's been a big part of their power play success because they had a lot of options, and oftentimes it was like, well, that was the one in tight that would kind of get neglected because you had Connor on the half wall and Ehlers in the bumper and Scheifele on the other half wall and Morrissey, you know, banging one-timers. And it's like, there's that big body who's got this, you know, really good dexterity to put pucks in behind goaltenders. He's really good. The thing I like about his game as well is that he's very willing to be the guy that goes and gets the puck. Like, if they have to chip it, if they have to dump it, he's going to go get it. And he works well with Connor and Scheifele in that way. So, and the fact that it's another, you know, elite player on your team that has committed to you, you got him in the trade for Dubois, and he said, I want to be here. I don't want to go anywhere else. I don't want to see what's out there. I'm happy here. I like it here. That's a huge win for the Winnipeg Jets. So it's a really nice piece of business for them, and it keeps their window to win open, even though Nick Ehlers is gone, and even though we'll see what happens with Kyle Connor. Like, it's nice for guys like Kyle Connor to see Gabe Vilardi say, I believe in this, and I like this, and I want to be here. But he is a really good complementary player. Now, maybe that might be underselling him because he's really good, but he complements Scheifele and Connor really well, and that was one of the best lines in the NHL. And actually, no line played more together last year than those three guys. They had played the most minutes together at 5-on-5 than any line in the NHL, and they had a lot of chemistry doing so. So that's a really nice win for the Jets, getting him locked up.
So the Ducks signed one of their big RFAs since last we spoke, Frankie, and Dostal, and Gibson's in Detroit now. He already was the number one. He's locked in. What's your read on what's going on between Pat Verbeek and Mason McTavish, as you know, is from the area, from nearby Carp?
Well, I think if you look at the track record of what has happened in Anaheim since Verbeek has taken over, he's very willing to play hardball with guys, right? Like, it's just he didn't capitulate to Troy Terry or even years prior where there were other contracts that were up. It was like Jamie Drysdale was another one. There was just, this is the number and this is what we're doing. And that's it. I think Anaheim's in an interesting situation because they're on the cusp. Like, they're making their trek up. Now they've got a coach that has won before. They've got a great goaltender, so much so that they were willing to part with another very good goaltender in John Gibson. There's a lot of young skill in the lineup. They've made an effort to add some vets, some guys from New York and Trouba and Kreider. And now I think what you're probably looking at McTavish is they're telling you, we're building something here. Here's the number to fit in. And if you don't like it, don't play. Or we'll figure something out. But Mason McTavish is a very good player, obviously, and has had to play through some pretty trying times there in Anaheim where they haven't been a good team, and now they're trying to turn the corner. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. But like from the past few years of seeing how RFAs were handled there, it does seem like it's a little bit of we might have to stick you with the number that, hey, maybe you don't love, but it's the reality of where we're at.
All right, last one for you. I'm going to put you on the couch. Okay, lean back. All right, gonna go deep here. Scotty Scheffler's comments last week. As a current world-class athlete, number one player in the world, just won the Open Championship. You are a former professional athlete. How frank and candid he was about what are we doing here, right? Like, why do I care so much? And separating those two worlds. Take us through maybe your experience as a professional athlete. And you don't see many guys open up like that, period, let alone a guy who is at the top of his sport speak like that and how candid he was.
Yeah, it's interesting with Scotty because he's so dominant, right? So it's almost like him winning all this money and him winning these tournaments, like it just doesn't do it for them, or it doesn't do it for him anymore. He's like, maybe instead of practicing for 8 hours today, I'd like to, put my kid down for a nap or spend some time with him at the park, and he's just, he's grinding because he's got to be competitive and be the best in the world. And he gets to a certain point where he's like, I've accumulated so much wealth that, like, I don't want to miss these days, with my family. So that's part of it. I think, the other part of it is you're on the road a lot. The days of the week don't really have a feeling at certain points when you're an athlete. It's just what's a practice day, what's a game day, what's an off day. You almost become this like emotionless being where you're just like always in your tunnel vision, fight or flight mode. And for sure with the amount of tournaments Scotty plays, like that wouldn't be that far off, even though he would never really show it. He's pretty stoic, although we did see him kind of lose it a little bit a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it was pretty revealing, and guys don't really get that candid, especially in hockey. You just never see it in a public forum. But good for Scotty for kind of for laying it out there. And you know what? Maybe he kind of breathed a sigh of relief afterwards, and felt like, okay, I got that out there. I feel better. Now let's just go play golf. And sometimes there's something to be said for just. It doesn't necessarily matter who you vent to. Could be millions. Could be a therapist. Could be a buddy. But it's nice sometimes to just get something like that off your chest and go play afterwards.